Welcome, Kajino Kami here.
And Cruellica Kain.
And we have some guests here that we are interviewing at Colorado Anime Fest 2018. Would you like to introduce yourselves and tell the public who you are?
We'll let you talk first.
Great, you can hear me. We are Samurai Dan and Jillian. We are Japanese martial arts instructors and cultural experts on a lot of different facets of Japanese history.
You're an expert. I'm a big guy with poor impulse control.
Okay,
this is our Akita Kiba, and he's getting a little restless doing interviews, so he's being
wants
a brat.
to play.
He's a
9-month-old.
He's in training to be a service dog.
Right now he's
failing.
Stir crazy.
So I love the internet. So I was researching for both of you. You have a marketable name. Samurai Dan could go everywhere.
Really?
Yes.
That is so cool. Do you know how hard it was for them? We run a traditional Japanese martial arts school, and we had performance teams who we put together. We had a children's team, a teenage team, an adult team that we used to travel to try to spread Japanese culture and the traditional martial arts back when swordsmanship was actually effective and real and not just something pretty, because it can be both. We had our Japanese instructor help name our groups, and so our performance team was called Kojokan Shinbutai. Kojokan is the name of our dojo, it means Tiger Castle Training Hall, and Shinbutai means serious warriors. So it was a perfect name if you were Japanese. If you're in America and in the Midwest, Kojokan Shinbutai got nowhere. The last time we were on stage with that name was in Nebraska, and their MC, who got hired because he spoke fluent Japanese, introduced us as Kojokan Shinbooty.
No lie.
No lie. And
the shin booties.
We're like, this is, all right, let's go with it. Somebody give me a bass. Everywhere we performed, nobody ever remembered our names. They just said, hey, it's that tall samurai guy. And I'm like, we should probably just go with that. And Jill's like, I've told you, they know you. You need to be the name. So I went out on a limb and we named our performance to Samurai Dan. And I teach samurai martial arts, and in real life my name is Dan. So it's a really complicated pseudonym.
Oh yes, it really is.
But it worked. People remember the name, and it does help us get into conventions because they can put a name with the face that's 2 feet above everybody else's.
Well, I like how it's Samurai Dan and Jillian. It's like headlines everywhere, but it's really creative because it connects
it's creative,
people.
it's our names.
Well, it's still, but but going with the
thank
literal.
you, because I teach 16th century martial arts, and I believe technology is all demonic, and so I go on the internet for the reason God intended it. Football scores.
That works for me, except for my hometown, which is Buffalo. So no.
Yeah, we're originally from Buffalo, New York. We moved to Colorado in 2006.
That's an upgrade.
Yeah.
You're probably the only people that moved to Colorado to get less snow.
Oh, it's amazing. This winters out here are nothing compared to out there. Because people are like, oh, it's so bad. I'm like, it's nothing like Buffalo.
Well, and it's where you're at. From what I understand, Buffalo and like Syracuse, New York, aren't that. There's places in New York that aren't that far from Buffalo, but where you're located, you just get absolutely dumped on.
Exactly.
Well, it also helps that we have a lake right next to us.
Right.
So.
Where are you going?
That's.
I think he likes you.
I think so, and I'm not a dog person because dogs don't like me.
You don't have a choice. If he likes you, you're an Akita person.
Akitas are the cats of the dog world.
And I'm a cat person, so that's probably why.
And see, they have an extra vertebrae in their neck that lets them be more flexible, and they turn their paws inwards like a cat.
They can hook.
So they hook and pull and do.
Oh, that's fascinating. See, I've heard of Akitas, but I've never actually been around them, so it's fascinating.
You can check that one off. I interviewed a guy with a big mouth, but he had a really neat dog.
Well, I liked your big mouth because we went to a number of your panels last year.
I'm so sorry. Oh. Is it too late to get your money back?
Well, the first panel we went to that he hosts at least here, and I imagine you do at other conventions, is Cards Against Humanity, which is a lot of fun.
We're doing it again tonight.
Exactly.
Here we are talking about Japanese cultural things and realistic martial arts, and
we like having fun too.
We run.
Well, I think it all blends together because there's a lot of culture that you...
In Cards Against Humanity,
Well, no.
it's the wrong culture.
What I mean is, I find it fascinating that you have such a dichotomy. You have so much culture, you're able to educate youth, adults, everyone on sharp pointy things, as you like to call them.
We used to call that panel Traditional Battlefield Weapons of Feudal Japan, circa 1300 to 1650 AD.
That sounds like a college course.
Yeah, we
And
get
so guess
3
what?
people to
We
show
had
up.
3 people, and we did that once at a convention. Jill grabbed a sword, unsheathed it, and walked out into the hallway and said, "Sharp, shiny, pointy things!" And we're an anime con. Everyone's ADD and we all like shiny things.
Yes.
So we had a big crowd. I'm like, wow, I should just call the panel that. And so we do. And people show up.
So what got you into teaching?
I wanted people to train with. That sounds weird, but I was training in Muay Thai kickboxing, and I wanted to train extra outside of classes. And so I found a guy who used to play defensive end for Arizona State, so he's a big guy. And I'm like, what are you doing on Tuesday night? And so we just started working out, and before long we had a group, and after a couple of years of that, my instructor moved. It's one of the downsides of being in a college town. You get a lot of transient population because they're there for their doctorate and so they're there for a couple of years and then they move. And so I ended up, I just started teaching. And luckily we met a Japanese sword instructor that was in Ninja Turtles. That's why we went and saw him. Because my son was a huge Ninja Turtles fan. We saw their poster somewhere that had the guy from Ninja Turtles was doing a sword exhibition. And so we got into Japanese swordsmanship and it just kind of blew up. But I really did get into teaching mostly because I wanted people to train with. And it may seem weird on the camera, but I'm actually really, really shy and reserved. If I'm not talking for a purpose, I don't talk. But we started doing a couple anime conventions. The first one we got asked to do a sword exhibition at. And so I put together this really technical, complicated, advanced, all this stuff that third dans are just now learning for us to do. And we had 10 people at it. And so the next time we went to walk out on stage, I started talking to the few people that were sitting there and made a couple jokes, and more people came over and sat down, and I started talking more. And so then I was like, oh, this works. Let me make a couple more jokes. And so I started having the demo team, the Kojokan Shinbutai, perform while I talked to the audience. And we had bigger crowds, and we did a seminar with our instructor where all the martial arts schools that were there for the seminar did a little brief 10-minute demo for TV crews and an audience. And they were all walked out and they did their thing and they walked off, and I walked out and started talking to the audience, and she led the group through the forms while I call the forms and then talk to the audience. People laugh and take pictures, and my instructor, who's Japanese and very traditional samurai, just sat there and fumed. And we got done and he went out and he did his demo, just mad, and cut mats to ribbons, and then stood there waiting, and the TV crews went right past him and came over to interview me, and I watched him go. And he took her off to the side and chewed her out about me. Clown! Samurai! No smile! And she's like, Sensei, he takes the art serious. He doesn't take himself serious. And he thought about it, and when he came back 6 months later for another seminar, the same thing happened. We had an audience, and so he looked at her and said, maybe this okay in America where no attention span. little joke necessary. But samurai, no smile, no laugh. My wife has no filter. I joke that I don't, but I actually do. It's kind of an act. My wife has no filter. She looked right at my Japanese instructor who's fuming, and she goes, Sensei, weren't you in Ninja Turtles? And he just froze because he's like, I'm going to kill her. I can't kill her. I'm going to kill her. I can't kill her. And so finally he goes, hi, but the no smile. So it was okay he was in the Ninja Turtles because he didn't smile. So it's a fine line. And when we travel and perform, a lot of times we'll take students with us at nearby conventions to be our helpers, to help handle the gear and stuff. And they're amazed because that's sensei, because I teach class very different.
Oh, I can only imagine.
I act when I'm on stage. This little stuff doesn't happen very often when your body's swimming. And they're, who is that guy? Did he just really make that inappropriate comment? And Jill's like, it's okay.
It's always entertaining, kind of culture shock, where you have people that started training first that then follow us to a convention and see the excess of personality and silliness, or the people that decide
come to train at the dojo
that have met us from conventions. Yeah, they come in to train and they're like,
he's scary. Like, what do you think I do? I teach sword combat. I'm 6'7", I weigh 240 pounds. What do you think?
Well, yeah. And it's...
And arrest techniques and restraints and controls. And
strangely enough, that's actually how we started. You mentioned Cards Against Humanity. We'd played the game before, where we didn't admit it to anyone, because that's... my professors at Bible college would not understand. No. But we were at a convention, and a friend of ours was hosting panels, and she hosted Cards Against Humanity on Friday night. And it's an offensive game. I mean, it just is. You have to let go of your feelings to be able to play the game and realize that they're not out to get you. People have a hard time doing that sometimes. And there were complaints and problems, and then a fight broke out. And she was scheduled to run the game on Saturday night as well. And so she asked me if I would come be security for the event. And I'm like, it's a strange thing to ask a guest, but I've worked security at concerts. Yeah, sure. I'll come. And I watched the way it was going, and I'm like, you know, the best way to keep people, to break up a fight is to keep them from fighting in the first place. So I would throw in a little funny comment and take what could have been a really offensive card and knocked it down where everybody's laughing despite themselves. And it worked so well that another convention was, there was one of the con-chairs was at the panel and came up and said, hey, would you run this panel at our convention? And Jill and I kind of went, we can buy the game. Yeah. And it's kind of turned into a thing. We do this panel at ASIN with 400 people. And we had Colossal Con. We had 535 people play Cards Against Humanity at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And we had like 12 of the Funimation guests came to be the judges, and so it was amazing. We got the VAs to do those cards in their character voices, which is disturbing, but it was awesome.
Well, and that's the reason why I mention it, not to bring it up out of the sight of the seriousness of what you do normally, but I like the dichotomy of that you try to create a very fun environment, at least at the conventions, to help, well, because you say you're serious at school.
It should still be fun, it's just serious.
Exactly. And I really appreciate that. And now you mentioned that you're hosting another type of panel, No Means No, which I find fascinating, especially at an anime convention, because you don't have that too often, being able to learn how to defend yourself or just learning how to stand up for yourself in very uncomfortable situations.
Well, it's a big deal to us. We work with at-risk shelters and sororities and things in our area, Girl Scouts and stuff, because people being able to protect themselves is a really big deal to me.
Oh, yes.
And I'm very pro law enforcement. We have several students and friends that are on the police, but one of the most telling memes that we've ever seen said, remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away.
I've seen that.
And
that's a very important.
The truth is, they're not there to stop it. They can't be everywhere. They're there to clean up afterwards. And conventions are a completely different environment from what I'm used to in the martial arts training and things. They're so friendly. We came to our first convention and drove up and got out of the car, and the con chair came up, and I'm used to, you sign a business deal by shaking hands. Nobody shakes hands at anime cons. You hug. And sometimes you throw yourself at the other person. I learned what that is. It's called clumping. Because somebody asked if they could clump me, and I didn't know any better. The customer's always right. Yeah, okay. And this girl backed up, dropped into a stance and then came flying at me and jumped. And I didn't know any better. I just did what 25 years of training taught me. I sidestepped. And she went boom, onto the floor and skidded and bounced. And went, you said you could clump me. And I'm going, oh my God, is that what that was? I thought it was an assault. I'm like, that's just move. And so I've learned a glump is like a flying hug. But anime cons are really friendly environments where there's so much contact and hugging things. And that part's wonderful, but as always, there's a potential for something to be taken too far or wrong. Mm-hmm. And being able to do a self-defense class that still has the jokes and the humor and the fun, but people can learn actual self-defense techniques that are based on leverage, not on strength, mm-hmm. so that smaller people can defend themselves against larger people, is empowering.
I think
and
so.
Sometimes more than just learning a specific move that will help you get out of a problem. And we've had people come up a couple of years later after they took a panel. We'll run into them at a convention where they come up and say, look, I want to thank you, that self-defense class. When I got to college, I was actually at a party where I had to use that move. And I got away from somebody who was trying to push things too far, and I wanted to thank you. That's humbling.
Oh,
but for us, more than just the move working, just the knowledge that you can resist, that you don't necessarily have to be a victim. You have the right and the ability to say no and to
stop something before it's a problem.
To push back.
And that's
is empowering to people, and it helps them, their emotional state, mm-hmm. their confidence level, their ability to just go out and meet people and to be at a convention, and hopefully they learn to not put themselves in bad situations.
Exactly.
But it's like I have a right to walk down that dark alley at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I probably shouldn't. It is my right, but it's kind of dumb. It's my right to go swimming off Farallon Island in California too during Shark Week. But it's probably not the best idea.
No, there's...
Have you ever had to deal with some of your students having a bully problem, and how did you deal with it if you did?
It happens way too often. Statistically in our country, we're at a point now where 1 in 4 people in this country at some point in their life will have to deal with assault, whether it's sexual or physical. The numbers are much higher even for just emotional abuse. Which is a very serious thing too, but being a martial arts instructor, I tend to focus more on the physical thing. So it happens a lot. One of the quietest, shyest girls that we've ever had trained at our school, I mean, she doesn't talk at all. She got into a situation where she met someone online that they decided after 3 months of dating online to actually meet in person, and things got bad, and she was able to, she actually got out from his, we'll call it a hug, and slammed him face first into the door, off the rebound, opened the door, threw him outside, closed the door, locked it, called his parents, and then 911. And guess who got there first?
His parents?
No, that's not as funny. They showed up as the police were putting him in the car.
Oh.
And the girl she didn't tell me about it for 6 months because she was worried I'd be mad at her. I'm like, mad at you? That's why I showed you the move. She told Jill. Jill was like, that was awesome. Did you break his arm?
So you're the big woman.
Oh, she's the violent one. Even though we do women's self-defense panels, I still do most of the talking and showing. Mm-hmm. And that's because Jill has tremendous enthusiasm.
I noticed that...
I've never really been classified as a victim.
She broke my nose.
Just for one
that was accidental.
Do you have any social media links that people can find you at?
We are just currently on Facebook. We have a Samurai Dan and Jillian on Twitter, but I'm still slightly...
Kyle Aber set it up for us at a con.
And I don't remember the password,
you have to be on Twitter.
So I know there's hashtags and stuff out there, but I need to reset the password
Facebook.
And actually see what it is.
Just Facebook, Samurai Dan and Jillian.
I can help you with that.
And Jill lives on Facebook because she's not technically challenged like I am.
Technologically impaired?
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to offend impaired people because mine's mostly just old.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Pleasure to see you guys again. I hope you come play cards with us tonight.
Absolutely. Oh,
Until next time, bye.